am who the Father says I am. My name is Thembelani Moyo. I'm 25 years old, and I've been studying and practicing architecture for the past how many years now? Sure. Over 7 years now. So that's what that's what I'm focused at right now. But I'm an all-round creative. I have experience in painting, in drawing, in photography. I love music. I wish I could get into it. Yeah, everything creative I love. I think it's a disadvantage sometimes because they say that, what do they say? Jack of all trades, master of none. But those are the talents that I have, you know. When you do have talent and you discover that you're good at something, you need to use it. There is that parable of the master who gives like each servant different like talents. In that sense, it's like money, right? But then you do get talents like within your own abilities, you know. And if you don't take advantage of them, you're just throwing away something that's been gifted to you. So even though I know that I am an architect, you know, I can't help but to still spend some time drawing, spend some time doing other stuff that's creative. And I think that's important because that's what I've been given. Yeah. The thing that I enjoy the most, to be honest with you, is, it's gonna sound crazy, but it's studying scripture. I get so excited about doing that, and like studying scripture, not only alone, because I do get a bit lazy, but like with other people, like sitting down with people and just discussing the word versus. I get excited about that. I get excited about, in my work, I get excited about, well, when I see something that I've designed or when I see something that I've put together, you know, fulfill its role. Like when a client moves into their home, or someone who commissioned the drawing gets the drawing, and then that moment when you walk into their house and then you look at the drawing that they got from you. I get excited about that because that's when I see the relevance of what I'm doing. I get excited about, you know, being around family and like spending time with family, loved ones, etc. I think some of that comes from the pandemic. You know, the pandemic has forced people to kind of reflect on what's really important about life, about where they are, where they're going. Some people, it has disrupted. It has disrupted the flow. They thought they were going there, and then bam, something is affected, you know. You might lose your loved one, and then now you that trajectory that you were on is affected. From me, my experience, it's given me a chance to reflect on what's really what am I about, like, and what do I value. And so from that perspective, definitely family is at the top of that list. You know, yeah. I told you that I am who he says I am, and that's my definition. That's the definition that I live by. I think that we're getting to an age in society where people depend on their own ideas. One of the most celebrated ideas right now is like self-esteem or self-reliance, or people people think that self-affirmation will get rid of your depression, and there's this focus on self. They call us the me generation, right? But even the people who, even the older generation, have adopted those ideas, and that's how people talk nowadays. I am manifesting, and I have realized that none of that is true. None of that works, and I go by the definition that has never been disproved. Scripture, the word, and that's what I live by. That is exactly what defines me. Everything else, like I was telling you, has been given to me. The things that I'm passionate about have been given to me. My abilities, my strengths, are things that have been given to me, and so I enjoy them, of course, and I love doing it. But at no point does it define me, because at any moment that can be disrupted in itself. A runner who's a great runner, at any moment they can lose their feet, they can get into an accident. So if that defines you, man, there's such a huge risk on you getting thrown off your track, because you're defined by something that is earthly, that is fleshly, and I do think that that's not enough. I think that you need way more than that. Yeah. I think that everything that I do plays a part in fulfilling my purpose, because I think it depends on what you use to define what your purpose is, right? But I think that for me, the purpose, I can find purpose in anything that I'm doing, to be honest with you. I can find purpose in wherever you put me and in whatever situation I'm in. So what I'm doing at the moment, all the creative stuff that I'm doing, just falls perfectly in place, because I can use all of that to fulfill the purpose. I think that in architecture, for example, one of the things that I love the most is creating relationships. I think that buildings, spaces that people are in, their homes, they help them create relationships, because the events that are required for you to build a relationship with your siblings or your parents or your children, those events, like sitting around a table and having food together and talking to each other, all the events that are related. I mean, architecture can go so deep into that. For example, no one ever thinks about the fact that, I noticed one thing actually, that when someone's cooking, I like it when I can sit with them or be with them in the same kitchen, not necessarily cooking with them, but talking to them at the same time. And a lot of kitchens actually don't have that space. So you can go deeper into designing each and every space that someone uses, be it the study, a kitchen, an office, a dining room, a bedroom. I mean, when you think about a lounge, a toilet, when you wake up in the morning and you want to go shower, imagine like the sun coming in at an angle and hitting you, like waking you up like that. And then, so I see a purpose in that. I think that you can enrich people's lives through the spaces that they live in, through the spaces that they dwell in, through the spaces that they build relationships in. And so, I find purpose in that. But that's not to mean that in the drawings that I do, there isn't a purpose in that. I can still get into each and every single thing that I put myself in and break it down. And so I think it's valid to say that everything that I put my effort in kind of builds on. Hard to accept that I don't like being told what to do. And I found it very difficult to accept that I might be a little bit lazy. But you know what? Once you know the challenges that you have in front of you, once you accept the things that you're dealing with, at least you can start tackling it. So I think the sooner someone figures out their weaknesses, the better it is for them. And I think it's a great thing that I've kind of noticed all the things that I'm weak at doing, because now I can make sure that I've got like things in place that make sure that hey bro, you're going too far. For example, I know for sure that when I'm working in a group situation, in a group setup, I thrive. I put my all into it. But when I'm working on my own, that's when I start like giving myself too much space to work with. And so even if I'm not working in a group setup, I ask someone to be like, hey, check up on me, call me, and ask like, how far are you with this? In that sense, that's my way of putting in measures in place to make sure that the laziness and I guess I can say the laziness. Even today, I'm still struggling to accept it, you see? But anyway, yeah. Those are two things. Yo, that's a huge part of like my past, when I moved, because I spent part of my upbringing in Zimbabwe, in a very small town in Zim. And towards the end of primary school, I moved to South Africa. And the first thing is that the area that I grew up in, there were no white people at all. I grew up around black people. That was my life. And it was a very small town, without even a cinema. So when I moved to SA, I moved into a white neighborhood, and I went to a white school as well. And so I really struggled to see myself in that place, because even the black people around me, they spoke like white people, they behaved like white people. It's like, okay, who am I gonna relate to? Who am I gonna be able to connect to? And I mean, I've learned some of the biggest lessons about life in those situations, that it actually doesn't matter. I've learned that it doesn't matter the skin color, the language, the background, the culture of a person. Each and every single grouping that You know, the world is separated into so many different groups, but each and every grouping has a person who you can connect to or not connect to. Sometimes you're like, nah, like I'm not gonna, vibe with that person. But I think that I've learned to be able to connect with people from all over the world, from different backgrounds, and that came from me being put in a position where I had to ask myself, who am I? What is my identity? And to be honest with you, it threw me off completely in a way that I didn't know who I was. And it wasn't up until I could, define it. That's when I felt free to relate to anyone and everyone, And from that time of my life, the end of primary school, early high school, those were some of my darkest points in my life. I was struggling academically. I was struggling to fit in. I felt like my own family didn't understand me because I was changing as a person as well, picking up different accents. So they didn't, understand where I was going and the changes in my life. And, I'm so glad that I was able to actually learn the lessons that I needed to learn at that point, grow as a person, and be strengthened through that whole experience. What are you built on? Foundation, I like the idea of a foundation because I studied architecture. And I think it's something that's very easy to understand. If you build a house on quicksand, it's gonna, as soon as the water comes and the sand is washed away, the walls will go with it, the roof will go with it. If you build a house on a rock, doesn't matter what comes. The thunder, a storm, a hurricane, it will literally outlive that. So I think that's how I look at a foundation. Like, what do you sit on? What are you based on? What is your base? If a storm in your life, and storms come in different ways, things that disrupt your life. If a storm comes around, will you be able to sustain that? Based on the thing that you're relying on, things that you are leaning on, and like I said, for me, it has to do with the word. It has to do with the scripture. That I know who my rock is, and that is who I lean on constantly. And I need to constantly remind myself, Uguti, no, bruh, you might be successful in your life, but remember where your source comes from. Remember who has lifted you up from the miry clay, So I think that's important. I think that's one of the most important things. I remember in grade 9, I got a literal word that I should be careful who I spend my time around, because in that time I was my foundation was being built. And so, when you're building your foundation, you have to be careful that you're not being influenced by things that will put you aside, things that will distract you, things that will pressure you into and distract you and take you completely away from the direction that you're going in. And unfortunately, I did get distracted that time, and it wasted a lot of my time. Like I can say that it wasted years of my life being around the wrong people and doing the wrong thing. And it wasn't up until after that I actually realized that, actually, dude, you did exactly what you were told not to do. Like you weren't paying attention to your foundation. You were you were spending time being influenced by the people who really got you, distracted. So now I know I need to make sure that I'm careful about that. And the foundation. Yo, like what are you building your be it a career, your empire, anything? If you build it on a week's foundation, someone will come along and just blow a small wind and you'll fall apart. Yeah. You need a strong foundation.